Have you ever thought about selling your products on Amazon? Or maybe you sell on another type of platform and are wondering how you can make your products and your brand stand out in a third party website. If so, then today's episode is for you. I'm joined by Vicky Weinberg, who's an expert in helping people sell on Amazon.
Welcome to the Resilient Retail Game Plan, a podcast for anyone wanting to start, grow, or scale a profitable creative product business with me, Catherine Erdley. The Resilient Retail Game Plan is a podcast dedicated to one thing: breaking down the concepts and tools that I've gathered from 20 years in the retail industry and showing you how you can use them in your business. This is the real nuts and bolts of running a successful product business, broken down in an easy, accessible way. This is not a podcast about learning how to make your business look good. It's the tools and techniques that will make you and your business feel good. Confidently plan, launch, and manage your products, and feel in control of your sales numbers and cash flow to help you build a resilient retail business.
Vicky, welcome to the podcast. Do you want to kick us off by introducing yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, Catherine. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So, I'm Vicky Weinberg and I help businesses sell their products on Amazon. And I do two things, which is either I help businesses get off to a really good start, because that's really important. And we'll talk about that a bit more later. And
Yeah.
then I also work with businesses who are on Amazon already and perhaps just want to see an improvement in their sales.
Fantastic. So you yourself got started selling on the platform. And can you share a little bit more about your story and your journey, how you ended up working with people on their Amazon?
Yes, so I think it was about 8 years ago now, it feels like a long time ago anyway, that I launched my own brand of baby products, which I don't have anymore. But back then I launched that brand, I launched on Shopify, and then I decided that I was going to also sell my products on Amazon.
Mhm.
I think part of it was timing and part of it was maybe having time on my hands to play around, but I actually did really well on Amazon. I learned a lot about the platform, how it works, how to best utilize it.
Mhm.
And I did really well on Amazon. I think probably most of my sales were coming from Amazon, hardly
Mhm.
any through Shopify, despite my best attempts. And I carried on doing that. And then COVID happened, and a lot of businesses, as you'll know, was suddenly looking to get their products online.
Yeah.
And by that point, I'd had a blog for a little while. I was just in the process of launching my podcast. And so people was coming to me and saying, "Can you tell me how to sell on Amazon? I can't work out this, or can you help me with that?" And I'd already been doing a little bit of freelancing in that area. Also, I should say I had some production delays, which meant I couldn't sell anything once my product sold out. And so that really was how I accidentally ended up working with other businesses selling their products on Amazon. So it was never really by design. It was probably by
Was-
chance, but I
Yes.
don't regret it.
So when people come to you and they're thinking about selling on Amazon, are there particular product types that you think, oh, yes, that'll do really well, or that'll be a bit trickier? Or is it fairly, do you think almost anything can sell? They call it the everything store. Is that your experience?
I do think almost anything can sell. To give you an example, I've been working with a client recently who sells urns for pets.
Mm.
You might not have thought about buying that on Amazon, but you can, and he does really well. I used to say that I didn't think Amazon was great for handmade products, and I still will say I think Etsy is probably better for handmade products.
Hmm.
However, I have a handmade client also doing really well on Amazon. I think it's actually I think most things can do well. When it gets hard is if your product is completely original. So it's something that's so new that people don't know what it is, what it's for, never seen anything like it.
Mm.
Because there's a big job to do to get people to find it in the first place and understand what it is and who it's for. And that's not to say it's impossible, but it's
Yeah.
hard. Or if you have a product in a niche that's really, really crowded and you don't really have a key point to differentiate your products from the other hundreds or maybe even thousands of products on there, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So I used to sell baby towels, for example, and at the time, my baby towel was quite unique, had a few features that made it really different. But
Hmm.
that same product today, I just don't think I could compete. I don't think I could compete on price. I don't think I could compete on features. I don't think I could. So those are the two times when I would say maybe Amazon isn't right. And actually, the other thing I'll mention is another time when Amazon might not be right is margin as well, because Obviously, if you're selling on Shopify, you are paying a fee to have Shopify. Maybe you're paying for your domain and everything else, or not even Shopify, anywhere you're selling your own
Yeah.
product. But on a third party, there's obviously all those additional fees to take into account as well. So if your margins are tiny, particularly at the beginning where you're not making huge volumes of sales, perhaps, hopefully you are, but let's be honest, not everyone gets started on a third party platform and makes hundreds of sales right away.
Yeah.
Um, Also a time when I might say, I don't know, that's when I would suggest to a client actually have a real think about whether you want to go ahead with this or whether it's the best option.
Whether you'll actually have any money left at the end of it. Well,
Yeah.
Amazon selling fees, they vary quite a lot by category.
They do. So they vary by category. You pay a fee for having the account. So you pay a set fee every month for having the Amazon selling account if you're going for the paid version, which most people do. You
Hmm.
then pay a fee on every product sold. And then if Amazon are doing your fulfillment, so if you're offering Prime shipping, you're
Hmm.
also paying Amazon to store your products and ship your products. And all of that can add up. And something people always say to me, oh, how expensive is it? But it really, really varies. It varies on the product
Mm.
category, it varies on the size of your product. So I can't give a definitive answer, but I will say if you go online and you type in FBA cost calculator, you can find this out really easily.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we'll come back to FBA versus normal Amazon. But I guess what I was curious about, you mentioned there about what to do if you've got products that maybe you don't have a point of difference. And I think that whenever you're selling on a platform, whether that's Amazon, whether it's Etsy, whether it's not on the high street, one of the hardest things is about differentiating yourself from the competition because, okay, yes, you don't have to drive the traffic to the site. You do have to drive the traffic to your own products. You're benefiting from the fact that there are lots of people going to these websites, but you're also then competing directly with people doing something similar. So what would be your top tips then for a business that well, I guess they all need to stand out, but how would you go about doing that?
The first thing I would say is, so on Amazon specifically, is to use all of the features. So if you have a registered trademark for your brand, you can enroll in something called Amazon Brand Registry, which is
Hmm.
completely free. And by doing that, you get access to lots of other features. So you can have an Amazon store, you can have extra content on your listings, you can add videos. I would suggest doing all of this. As I say, it's free. It's going to take time, obviously, but it doesn't cost you to have all of this. And if you look on Amazon now, if you just go onto Amazon and you search for anything at all, you will see that a lot of sellers are taking advantage of these features and their listings look a bit more professional, a bit more polished than those that don't.
Hmm.
I definitely think that's important. Like anywhere else, I think having really good product images are important, particularly your main product image, because as you've said, Catherine, when you search for something on Amazon, you get pages and pages of results. First
Hmm.
thing is title and a picture. So the picture has to really entice customers to actually click through to your product listing. And the title itself is important as well. So coming back to differentiating your product, I always advise sellers to be really, really clear about how their product is different and almost spell it. Yeah, it sounds really silly, but almost spell it out. To give an
Mm.
example, I was speaking to a brand recently who sells baby bibs and the sort of coverall ones. And the
Hmm.
difference between theirs and others is theirs has two pockets rather than the pocket at the baby's like belly level. It also has a pocket higher up. So you
Hmm.
don't need to wear a separate bib over the top. Because you might have, I did this, my children have the coverall bib and then one of these food catcher ones went over the top.
Yeah.
Because of the design of hers, it meant that you only had to buy one thing, but they didn't
Hmm.
say that anywhere in the listing. And so my advice to her was you have to you have to tell people, you have to make it really clear. You don't want to skirt around and say this is well, you can say things like this is a unique design or whatever else, but actually tell people. Tell
What?
people if you buy this, you don't have to buy something else.
Yeah.
Actually use those maybe better words than that, but actually use the words, actually make it really, really easy for someone to make the decision. Just absolutely spell everything out because you can have the best product, you can have the best photos and everything else, but you just want to make it really easy to people to see, okay, this is why I should buy this.
Hmm.
And coming back to the product title, given that the people see a picture and a title on the
Hmm.
search page, make sure that key information is in your title. If there's something you really want people to know, it should be in your product title,
Hmm.
whatever that thing is, because that's making the first thing is someone has to decide to click through to your listing.
Yeah.
And if you can't get them even to do that, then you can have the most well optimized, beautiful written listing with lovely images. But the first thing is getting them to click through in
Get
the first place.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So make sure you're spelling it out.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess it means you got to be clear on that as well. What makes it unique?
Yeah, and I do think a lot of people know what makes their product unique as well, but they maybe haven't spelt it out. And I don't know why. I think lots of us do this. We not always very good at selling or wanting to highlight aspects of what we do or what our products are. But I think it's actually really important to just own it and say it, as silly
Hmm.
as that sounds.
I think no, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think as well that the thing is that you can. So, for example, the person with the bib, I feel like they could have spent months probably perfecting this design and coming up with it, and they've delved right into why it's this way and why they want to have the extra pocket and why it's beneficial. But it's almost like it becomes so ingrained in your own head that you don't realize it's not obvious to other people because it's all you've thought about for several months.
Absolutely. And I think as well is that you can get, as you said, you can get so close to a product that sometimes it helps just to put yourself in the position of the customer and answer the question, why would someone choose to buy this? Why would I
Mm,
buy this one over that one? You almost have to answer that question in your
yeah,
text. You almost have to tell someone this is why you want to buy mine versus this other one.
yeah.
And I should also say, because people often ask me about this as well, because there is a lot of competition on Amazon, that's where it helps with your pricing as well, particularly if your product's slightly premium and it's priced a little bit higher than other products.
Hmm.
Customers, as we know, price is one factor they take into account. And if your product is slightly higher priced than maybe others in your category, I think it's even more important for them to understand why. So
Mm,
they can
mhm.
say, oh, it might be £2 more, but it's because of this. Or
Yeah,
I might be spending more money on this product, but actually I'm saving money because I won't, it does two things. And I don't have to buy this other thing or whatever it is.
yeah.
But I think you have to make it a really easy decision for people.
Do you think that also I often think, if it's about quality and it's about durability and longevity and people are open to hearing that message that, yes, this is a premium product and it lasts this many washes or this many years or this much use, you can pass it on. It's not gonna break immediately, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. I also think it's important if your product is handmade or even if it's made in the UK. I think that's also something that's important. I think it's important to say you're a small business if you are a small business,
Mhm.
because there are a lot of people who choose to buy from small businesses, and you can get a small business badge on Amazon now. And I think that's definitely worth doing. And I also think that in your content, particularly if you apply for Amazon brand registry and you can have this additional content,
Mhm.
it Amazon do provide you space to talk about your brand. And some brands shy away from that, particularly if they're a very small business. But I actually would say do the opposite, because I know if I look at a product listing and there's a little bit about the founders and their background or why they've created the products or whatever it is, that's going to stick in my mind so much more than the
Mm.
generic version. I'm much more likely to remember that brand, the first one, the one who's actually told me a bit about themselves. And I think that's really important because Amazon is a bit of a faceless platform, isn't it? Like
Mhm.
the last, say, 5 things that I bought on Amazon, I can't tell you the brand for all of them. Some I probably could, some I couldn't, because it's just someone says, "Where'd you get that?" And you say, "Oh, Amazon." But what you really
Mm.
is to be able to say, "I got this on Amazon, and actually this is the brand," because I remember what the brand was because it was really clear to me.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So have a presence. Don't be afraid to show your personality. Don't be afraid to talk about the fact that you're a small business. Be really clear on why your product's unique and make sure that you're shouting about that to get them into the listing. So we've talked about standing out, but what other considerations should people have when it comes to trying to grow on a selling platform?
Okay, if we're talking about Amazon in particular, I think
Mhm.
the first thing is to, coming back to what I said right at the beginning actually, is to think about whether you want to sell your products on Amazon, grow on Amazon.
Mhm.
And the reason I say that isn't to be negative. Of course, I help people sell their products on Amazon. However, I do want to be really clear about what's involved, and it might not be for everyone. So I would say before you think, I'm going to sell my products on Amazon because I need to be on Amazon, everyone's on Amazon, I
Mm.
would just take a minute and think, okay, what does that mean to me? Does it work for my margins? Does the fulfillment work for me? Do I have the time to invest to get in my listings, my store to a really good standard, as I've just outlined? Do I have really great product photography? All of these things, I would definitely say, first of all, think it through
Mhm.
before thinking that I have to be there, because you don't have to be there. I do think it's a good place to sell your products. However, you don't have to be anywhere. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important to think about whether you want to invest the time, the money, the resources before you get started. Because I'll be really honest, Amazon is a bit of a time suck. It's not an easy platform to navigate and to work with.
That's
Everything
definitely overwhelming feedback I hear from people is that it's like the learning curve is steep.
it is, and everything takes twice as long as it should,
Yeah.
and things can go wrong, do go wrong. And I'd say all of this as someone who thinks it's a great place to be, but I always want to be really honest about this because I think you have to want to sell your products on Amazon and know why you're doing it as well
Hmm.
before you even get started. So I think that's one thing. And as I said as well, have a good look at the fees, really clear on that as well, because you don't want to get a nasty surprise down the line when you realise, oh, actually, I'm only making a couple of pence per product after Amazon take out
Yeah.
all of this. So have a really good look into it. And then if it's something you do want to do, I would have a look at the market that you're going to be going into. So have a look at other products in your category, get a feel for what they're doing, how they're pricing their products, how they're fulfilling their products, what their listings look like, and just get a sense of where your product's going to fit in.
Hmm.
I think that's a really useful thing to do. But I think the main thing is knowing that you want to be on Amazon and also knowing why. So there are different reasons people go on Amazon. Some sellers go on there because they want to have a presence. So they're not concerned on Amazon being a big part of their business, but they want to get their products on Amazon before someone else gets their products onto Amazon because
Yeah.
that does happen, particularly if you wholesale. It shouldn't happen without your permission, but it does. So you
Hmm.
don't want, if someone else lists your products on Amazon, you've got no control over the branding, the pricing, any of it. So some businesses choose to have a presence on there, not make it a big part of what they do, but just to get on there to have that control.
Yeah.
Others really want to grow the Amazon side of their business. And then, of course, there's everything in between. But I think knowing what you want out of Amazon is really important as well, because then that will also determine how much time and effort and money and energy and everything else we've spoken about you put into it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, being really clear on what your motivations are. And can you talk us through a little bit because there's lots of different options on Amazon, aren't there? In terms of the fulfillment piece, can you just talk us through the FBA fulfilled by Amazon and the pros and cons?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's actually free fulfillment methods on Amazon. People think there are two, but there are actually three. So the first is you doing your own fulfillment. So your products are on Amazon, but you're fulfilling the orders as you would from your website or anywhere else. And then FBA, fulfilled by Amazon, basically means you send your products into an Amazon warehouse and they store them and ship them out to customers for you, usually next day or sometimes even same day, depending when in the country you live. The third option, which I will touch on just because people don't know it exists, is called Seller Fulfilled Prime, which
Mm.
means if you can dispatch your products as quickly as Amazon can, so if you can get things out the same day and have them delivered next day, you can apply for what's called Seller Fulfilled Prime, where you still get the Prime badge on all of your products. Customers don't actually realize it's actually coming from your warehouse, not Amazon's. So that's a third option as well. But most people go for FBM, which is fill and orders yourself, or FBA. And the other thing about FBA to mention is that it means that if you wanted to sell from your UK Amazon site to Europe, as an example,
Hmm.
Amazon would take care of all that shipping and things for you. Of course, they're going to charge you for the privilege,
Yeah.
but it can be a nice way to sell your products in other marketplaces without having to worry about export paperwork and fees and that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, and the Prime, and basically the Prime badge gives you access to their Amazon Prime members, which I presume are the biggest spenders on Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely. Most people nowadays have Prime. And something I think is worth mentioning is if for some reason you decide not to do Prime, so maybe your products are really big, so sending them in for Amazon's fulfillment would cost you a fortune in storage fees, or maybe they're very fragile and actually you want to keep control of that process. If for whatever the reason is, you decide to fill your own products, I always recommend offering free shipping, even if
Mm.
that means adding a little bit to your product costs to give the illusion of free shipping. And the reason for that is that if you don't do that, then Amazon will obviously charge customers for shipping, and that can actually put people off. So
Mm,
if you
mhm.
don't have Prime, I didn't actually realise this until it happened to me as a seller. Amazon were charging someone £4.50 delivery for my products, which were only cost I think like £15 at the time or something.
Right.
No one was gonna buy that, were they? Let's face it, or very few when compared with all the Prime options. So if you don't want to do Prime for whatever reason, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to. but I would definitely think about your shipping costs. I saw someone recently who was selling a 9.99 book and the shipping was £4.50, and I just thought, no
Yeah.
one's no one's going to buy that. Why
Yeah.
would you? Or
A
well, I
huge.
say no one, that's been very negative. Few people will buy that when they can get something perhaps quite similar and
Mhm.
get it next day and not pay for the shipping.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned there about international shipping, and I think that is a question that comes up fairly often with my clients is this idea about expanding internationally and looking into new markets. And once you've got up and running with Amazon UK, do you have to start again from scratch if you wanted to, for example, let's say you really wanted to push your European sales and you thought, I'll see if I can get some stock into FBA in Europe, for example, or in the US or in Australia or somewhere like that. Think how easy achievable is that?
It's To be honest, it's really achievable, and I should also say you don't have to start in the UK as well.
Mm.
So I work with clients who just sell in the US, for example, or
Mhm.
just sell in Europe. You don't have to have a UK selling account if you don't want to, although that is where most people start. And
Yeah.
actually, if you are thinking you're going to expand internationally, I do think it's a good idea to get everything set up, make sure you're happy with how it runs in the UK before expanding.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's relatively easy. So things to know are setup wise. Something that's very good and people always are pleased to hear is that your product reviews are global. So
Mhm.
if you have 100 5-star reviews on Amazon UK and you replicate that product in the US, you're going to be starting in the US with 100 product reviews. So that's really nice. And another reason to maybe get going in one marketplace before expanding
Yeah.
is the same product listing. If you are wanting to list in another marketplace, though, I would always say get a professional. Some of this sounds really obvious, so apologies for anything that's really obvious, but it is worth saying because people
Yeah.
don't always know what you
No.
have to do versus what Amazon does. But do always get your listing professionally translated into the
Right.
relevant language for that marketplace. That's really important because sellers don't always realize that doesn't happen automatically, but it doesn't.
Mhm.
And then in terms of fulfillment, you have a couple of options. So, first thing you can do is if you're sending in stock for Amazon to fulfill, you can set it up from day one that actually you're very happy to fulfill orders from European customers, as an example, who shop
Mhm.
on the Amazon UK site, because some do. So, there will always be customers in France who will look on amazon.co.uk and see if they can get what they want and get it shipped to them in France. That
Mhm.
will happen. Although, of course, you will get more customers in France if you were to list on Amazon France.
Yeah.
But that could be something you could do from day one if you wanted. In terms of fulfillment, you can either I'll g it gets quite complicated, I'll make it as simple as possible. So you can either ask Amazon to fulfill orders in Europe from your UK stock. So you have
Mhm.
stock in a warehouse in UK, someone will buy in France, and Amazon will ship it using that UK stock. So it won't be next day delivery, but it'll be like 2 days usually. The other option is to actually send stock to an Amazon warehouse in Europe to fulfill orders in all the European marketplaces.
Yeah.
Something to be aware if you do that, and I'm trying to keep this all very high level, so but there is a lot involved, so apologies, hopefully I'm getting the balance right,
Yeah.
is that you will be paying tax anywhere that you're physically holding stock, even if
Right.
it's not your own warehouse. So that's just something to be aware of. And I would always say that if you're looking to start selling in Europe or any other country, whether it's on Amazon or any other marketplace, to get some tax advice first. You
Right.
know exactly what you're looking at.
Yeah. 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 Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. That's really, really interesting information. And so it sounds like it's doable. You obviously need to do your research, but it's definitely something that can be done. So if you've replicated something in the UK and it's worked really well and you've got the good reviews coming in and the listing seems to be working well, then that's something that you can replicate across countries. So just then finally to wrap things up, then what changes you've been on Amazon now, you said for 8 years, is that right?
Yes, I'm not selling myself on Amazon anymore, but I've been selling either my own products or clients on the platform for that long. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been working with people with being a seller yourself and working with sellers for 8 years. So you must have seen a lot of changes. What sort of overall changes do you think we'll see with Amazon and the experience of being a seller as a small business?
I'm going to start with the less positive ones, if that's okay, because I just
Mhm.
want to be realistic that I think Amazon is going to get it's going to continue to get more and more crowded because it
Mm.
certainly has since I started selling 8 years ago to now.
Mhm.
I would say in every single product category, there's a lot more competition than there
Mhm.
was, which makes it a little bit harder to get started, because if I was still on there now after 8 years, I'd probably be doing amazingly because I'd have hundreds of reviews and sales history, and that's what Amazon likes and that's what they reward. They
Yeah.
love the sellers that are making money because they're making Amazon money. So
Mm.
for that reason, it does get harder and harder to get started, which again isn't to put anyone off. People get started on Amazon every day and they do
Mhm.
really well. But I just wanted to be really honest about that.
Mhm.
Those, I think, are the sort of the negatives and the things that I think will continue to happen. But they're going to happen on every marketplace.
Mm.
I think that's going to happen everywhere. However, in terms of the other changes that are coming, I definitely think more Amazon marketplaces will open up. So
Mhm.
we were just talking now about the fact that you can sell in Europe, you can sell in the Americas, you can sell on Amazon Australia, Amazon Ireland is coming really
Mhm.
soon. I think that those changes are definitely coming. They're going to be more marketplaces, and I think that's a really positive thing, because actually I would say to most sellers, if you can if you can use Amazon to reach other markets, I think it's
Mm.
a really good way of doing it, and actually can be a lot simpler than working out for yourself how you're going to fulfill all these orders in various places. And I think more marketplaces will come online, which I think is great. I think that there's going to be a bit more of a shift to I don't want to say Amazon going to help small businesses because they're not known for being helpful. But I mentioned earlier that you can now get a small business badge on Amazon to show that you're a
Yeah.
small business. You can get credentials on there to show you're carbon neutral. And I think Amazon are definitely doing a bit more to help small businesses in that sense, even if it's
Mhm.
only just to highlight this is a small business. And then I think there will also be lots more features that come on, and I won't bore you with all of the features, but because I work with clients in Amazon US, generally what happens is they get more features there, and then everything they
Right.
get there 6 to 12 months later comes over here. So there are a lot more features that are coming that I think will be really useful. So, for example, I'll give an example of one that I think people will be interested in. If you sell different products, but Amazon are fulfilling them. In the
Mhm.
US now, they give the option for Amazon to bundle things together for you.
Mm.
So you
Mhm.
can create bundles
Ah, nice.
online
Yeah.
and not actually have to package them together and send them to Amazon as a bundle. They're starting to do it for you. And that's something that people ask me about a lot, whether that can be done. Can't be done here yet, but I think that's coming.
Mhm.
Overall, while I think it's going to get busier,
Mhm.
and it's always going to be quite a hard marketplace to work with just because of what it is, I do think there'll be positive changes coming.
Okay. Great. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us. I really enjoyed our conversation. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find out more about you?
Yeah, sure. So it's my website is vickyweinberg.com. You might need to look that. I won't spell it, but hopefully there'll be a link in the
In the
notes.
show notes, yeah.
And I have my own podcast for small businesses, which is called Bring Your Product Ideas to Life. And again, if you look that up, you will find it.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Why not head over to Instagram at Resilient Retail Club and say hello. Let me know what you thought about today's episode. I love to see as well when you're sharing where you are, where you're listening in. And of course, if you have a moment to rate and review the podcast in Apple Podcasts, that would be amazing. Or you can rate the podcast within the Spotify app. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you follow, subscribe, like the podcast, whatever it is on the platform that you use, then you'll be the first to know about each new episode that comes out on every Thursday morning.